Welcome back to another episode of Kicking It with Coach Red, where we bring you all the news, stories, takes, and opinions about your favorite teams from the Pacific North, fresh from the good to the bad to the Mariners.
The sweet, sweet Mariners, baby.
We're going to save the sweet, sweet Mariners for another day. There's been some things happening, but not enough yet to fill up an entire episode. We're going to wait for Mr. Jerry, Trader Jerry himself, and Justin Hollander to do a few more things before we go all in and then talk about some other things we'd like to see. But instead, why don't we talk about this bang up of a game we had on Thanksgiving, which I was not thankful for because it was not a good ending to a wonderful evening.
I can agree with that. I mean, that whole day was rough for me. So,
Yep. So Thanksgivings in the past, our eyes are towards Christmas. You see the Christmas lights in the background behind the person that I will introduce here in just a second. But before we go too much further, why don't I tell you a little bit about us? If you're looking for a guy who gives out advice, gives out great knowledge, is merry and jolly, kind of like our good boy Chris Kringle or Saint Nick. It's just going to give you everything you want to know about these Seahawks. Maybe you're looking for a guy like me, your boy, Coach Red. You can find me on Twitter at The Real Coach Red, on Instagram at The Real _ Coach Red. If you're on Instagram, you can see that our latest clip was liked by Ken Griffey Jr. himself.
yes, it was.
Also, you can find me on TikTok at The Real Coach Red. Also, hop on over to YouTube, search Kicking It with Coach Red, like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications, leave a comment or two. And if you're looking for a guy, like when you're in line for Santa, the guy that doesn't look like he's super excited to be there, the little elf helper that's just taking kids and their pee pants right off of me. If you're looking for someone like that, you might be looking for someone like Cain.
Yeah, I'm Kane. You can find me on Twitter at Kane2406, YouTube at Kane06, TikTok and Kick Kane0624. Also, follow the show's socials over on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Red Pod. Follow us, follow us, follow us. Do it, freaking do it.
Yes, that was a
Also,
big highlight.
yeah,
Ken Griffey.
I said that to Day, and he practically, goosebumped up. He was like, "How did that even happen?" I was like, I don't even know, but it happened."
He liked it at night, and I went to bed early that night. Woke up in the middle of the night to use the restroom, and I was wired for an hour straight. Couldn't go back to bed.
Did you happen to wake up your fiance when it happened?
Nope. I waited
Oh,
until she woke up.
okay. I told my wife first thing, and she also gave me a high five. So
That's what I got.
nice, dude.
You want to know what the Seahawks didn't get after the Thanksgiving? What's the opposite of feast? Least. We're getting a lot of high fives. Um, the game was almost over by halftime. You looked at this, the Seahawks through their first 5 drives, I believe, had 11 total yards of offense. They drive down and try to put themselves in field goal range, and another miss by Jason Myers right before half. Come out of half, get a pick six early, score a field goal. You feel like things are starting to go in the right direction, and then it stalls out again. And Niners already had a big enough lead where they just kind of coasted through, get a late touchdown in the fourth. Wow, nose in for the win for you. That was a quickie.
Yeah.
All right. But when you look at this game as a whole, just not a lot of things got going. Gino's 18 for 27 for 180 yards through an interception. He's also sacked 6 times in this game.
He sure was.
Hello, Stone Forsyth. Welcome, or Stone Forsyth. Sorry, Abe Lucas. Give me that Abe Lucas, because Stone
Yeah.
Forsyth had to come in because Jason Peters got banged up during the game. It's
It's
not a great
literally
game for the Seahawks. You had
no.
no Kenneth Walker, who was banged up. You had Gino coming off the elbow contusion. You have
No Kenneth.
Jason Peters getting banged up. You get Reek getting banged up in this game.
Yeah.
Wasn't awesome.
Um, hey, but big shout outs to D. Eskridge on returns. huge returns for him. I believe he had two or three. I know he had the first one where he ran it back like 60 yards, but you know, big ups to him. And can we get DJ Dallas out of here on returns?
He's been doing pretty well on punt returns. He loses a fumble on this one. He's like top 5 in return yards for punt, like
I
punt
don't know.
yard
This is
average. He's top 5.
I don't know. The fumbles are not. I turning over the ball is never good, especially to your division rival. I thought this game was going to be a lot more gritty. Defense would step up. You saw some flashes, like you said, the pick six right out of the half, and JSN's absurd catch. You thought they were driving at some points, and then they just stalled out again. And it's a Shane Walden classic where he doesn't know how to call a football game again.
Okay, let's dive into that a little
It
bit
was
more.
bad.
The Sharps coming in, 14 carries for 47 yards, clocking in just over 3 average. DJ Dallas got 2 carries for 10 yards, a little bit of scrambling by Gino. The one thing that kind of shocked me is didn't really see Kenny McIntosh on the field. Activated a couple weeks ago, was a healthy scratch when Kenneth Walker was healthy. With him banged up, I thought he was going to have a role in this game, and it just didn't come to be. Maybe because it was the short week, could have been a factor. I'm expecting to see him do some things because although his testing wasn't off the charts, I think his game functionality and his playing speed is amplified in game, kind of like you see with Bobo, where his testing numbers aren't great, but the guy could just has good football speed and he's good in there. And I expect him to be able to do some of these things. I think he's a little bit more dynamic than DJ Dallas is. So hopefully being able to stretch those outsides because he can give you kind of what you got out of Kenneth Walker. I'm hoping. Kenneth Walker, he's that guy that could work the perimeters, find a lane, cut, go, hit the edge. And I want Sharps to just run downhill. They're doing these little pitchies things with him. I don't like it. I don't like it at
No,
all.
let him run through the
Downhill.
guards.
Let him go hit people. Go behind guard and center.
Yeah, I agree. Um, it is tough with all the injuries that have been piling up. It's not been pretty. But this team just deflated, and it was when you're held to under 50 yards in the first half. It's
I
not a
think they
good
got
sign.
right around 50.
Yeah, like not good. You have a three-headed monster out there at receiver, and
A lot of that
Sharp
was
isn't bad.
he didn't have the time. It's just like just trying to find good balance, find something that works, mixing it up a little bit.
Yeah,
It's just not clicking. And you're at a point in the season where you're in the middle of the stretch now. You got Dallas coming up uh, tomorrow night. Then you turn around and play the Niners again, and then you got the Eagles who look like they are the toast of the town, maybe one of the best teams in the league right now. So
yeah,
it's going to be a gauntlet. I think that the Seahawks do pull out a victory somewhere in the middle. It's tough when you have the talent the Seahawks do to lose 5 consecutive games. It's not unheard of. I've seen it happen before, but it's also pretty tough to do. And the quick turnaround with the Niners as well, who I believe have the Eagles this
Philadelphia.
week. So coming off that, we'll be able to see in the Seahawks get a little bit more rest playing on Thursday night going in to that
Mhm.
49ers rematch. So we'll see what happens. But before we go too much further into that, Kane, who's your player of the game?
Jordan Brooks, as we've said time and time again, the dude has been everywhere, just about every game. Uh, 7 solos, 12 totals, and the pick six out of the half. Couldn't really ask for much more out of him. So that is my player of the game. Coach Red, who do you have?
My player of the game was D. Eskridge. And if you follow me on Twitter, you would have seen the tweet that I put out there. And I said, who would have thought the only person making plays right now would be D. Eskridge? Dot, dot, dot. No one. So, first kickoff return takes it 66 yards, sets up a field goal, has 4 total returns for 140 yards. It's average of 35. He had that long 66. He also successfully ran a jet sweep for 10 yards as well.
Yep, I
So
did see that.
in the first half, he put him in field goal range, and before the last drive before half, had the longest play for the Seahawks of 10 yards. So
Love to see it.
it's good to get something out of him. Been waiting for years. So if he can be a return specialist on the kickoff, I'm fine with it because I don't think you should be out there much. I'd much rather give the reps to Jake Bobo because he's more versatile and can actually block. I know the speed with the Eskridge is the highlight there, but they've never really been able to consistently get him the ball in space to let that speed play. Um, so that's what I got. I mean,
Cool.
there were not a lot of options to choose from. When I'm talking about a return guy who did not score a touchdown, not a great game. And I also
Yeah,
picked him because I knew you were going to pick Jordan Brooks.
he was like really the only person that did anything.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Let's go into the next bit here. Um, Thanksgiving is over. Christmas is on the horizon. So it's that time of year when everyone starts talking about old Chris Kringle. He's got a list and he's checking it twice, going to find out who's naughty or nice. So we've got 5 Seahawks on offense, 5 Seahawks on defense that we're going to kind of talk about here and let you know whether we think that they are naughty or nice. And I tried to sprinkle in at least one guy on either side of the ball that we haven't talked a ton about this year. So to start it off, we are going to go with Geno Smith. Kane, naughty or nice?
I'm gonna go with Naughty with this one. He just has. It seems like he's regressed from last year. He's holding onto the ball too long. He's actually fumbling the ball. He's throwing picks. There's not a lot of positive. Yeah, when he comes out there and doesn't turn the ball over, it's great. But when he's out there throwing a pick once every couple of games, it's not pretty. You can see him falling apart. And this year, he's on my naughty list. What about you, Coach Red?
I also have him on the naughty list. It's frustrating because he had that big comeback year last year, and there wasn't really any quarterbacks on the free agent market that really moved the needle. It's not like Derek Carr is doing much. With where the Seahawks drafted, you already had CJ Stroud off the board, you had Bryce Young off the board, and Anthony Richardson off the board. Next guy is Will Levis, who's had up and down games. But I think you've seen a little bit more consistency with Geno, except you haven't seen the turnovers ratchet up. And I think that
Yeah.
it's really cemented. Geno's not the youngest guy out there. And you're looking at this upcoming draft that is littered with quarterback prospects and a ton that have been mentioned in the first and early second, even though we don't have a second round pick anymore. I think this finally the year because you went into this draft saying the Seahawks have never taken a corner above the third round. And then they take Spoon in the first. I think this is the second third quarterback that'll ever be drafted by John Snyder and Pete Carroll, with Russell Wilson being the first and the second one. God, I remember this guy. I played with him a little bit on Madden. He wasn't very good, but when I got the King's ransom for Russell, he was my starter. Don't remember his name anymore, but I think this is where they break the mold and go get a quarterback where they can have some control. You're going to have the likes of Caleb Williams and Drake May off the board, but you're going to have some guys that are intriguing prospects like Bo Nix. You've got Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix, JJ McCarthy. So there's going to be some guys that might tickle your fancy a little bit there towards the mid end of the first round, wherever the Seahawks end up falling. So Gino bet on himself a little bit. Second year of betting, he might have
Uh,
kept going all in a little bit when he needed to bring a little bit back.
the one thing that I've seen is like, yeah, when he threw a pick last year, he didn't fumble last year. That was huge for it. But when he threw a pick, he didn't lose the spark, right?
It's also a little tough to say that all the fumbling is on him. He's getting sacked at a higher clip this year because of the injuries and
Yep.
different combinations along the offensive line.
Yep. No, I get it.
All
It's
right.
just tough to see.
The next player we have is DK Metcalf. Kane, naughty or nice?
DK Metcalf is always on the nice list. As we said before, man, there is. I went on a spiel about him, a couple episodes ago. What can DK not do? Uh, the dude is just a freak out there, and you know, 2 weeks in a row, we thought we were getting a game-ending drive off, you know, the Rams after the Commanders, and we thought we were getting the same outcome. But the dude is special. All he does is just be excellent on the field. And big ups to him learning sign language to talk shit so he won't get fined or flagged. That's awesome. That is awesome. And also, we'll put him on the nice list. Gino has been very hot-headed this year, and you see DK calming him down. That's wild to me. Coach Red, what do you got on DK?
Earlier in this year, DK was in the naughty list for me. He was getting the stupid penalties early in the year. Um, he was kind of acting diva esque. You've seen that kind of go away, and that really started in the game against Cleveland, where he was getting targets, but they weren't necessarily on target. There's been some balls that I think that he's caught in the past, but it's thrown so much traffic that he's protecting the body a little bit, which I understand. Um, but in that game where he holds the block for JSN to score the game-winning touchdown, then he has a couple of weeks. He's kind of been a little sporadic. He's had boomer bust games, but he's kind of always had that with the Seahawks. But I like his demeanor. I like how he's becoming more of a leader in the wide receiver room, it looks like, and with this team, because you do have a lot of these guys that are getting up there. I mean, how much longer is Tyler Lockett going to play? I'm not sure. I don't think anyone is. B Wags is getting up there in age as well. Quandre is going to be going into the last year of his deal. DK's on this team for a while, and for him to take those steps forward and be a leader by example, it's something I like to see. And he was on the naughty list, but he has turned it around to come on the nice list for me.
Yeah, dude, DK Metcalf is just great.
The next player is JSN.
Uh, this one's a little bit tougher for me.
I wasn't trying to make it easy.
I know, I know. This one's a little tough, but I am going to go nice on this one because man, when they use him right, oh man, it's a sight to see. But outside the one screen that he scored for a touchdown, you don't really see him excel as much. Um, but man, when you run him down the seam or have him do just this like cut route out to the sideline, the dude's got amazing footwork. He gets open. He makes fantastic catches, or at least attempts to. Um, and I really think that he is that next guy for the Seahawks. That's why we took him in the first round. He was that at Ohio State, and I'm expecting to see it. It is a lot more tempo coming into the NFL. So I think it takes him just next year. We'll see him break out, I think. But as of right now, he's been pretty nice. He's been pretty nice.
Yeah, he's trending to the nice side for me. It's always a crapshoot with the draft, and you look at some guys that were drafted after him who have been putting up bigger numbers, like Zay Flowers, Jordan
Thank you,
Addison,
Zay Flowers. By the way, won me
Puka,
my fantasy week.
Puka Nakua, and Tank Dell have all outpaced him
Yep.
statistically, but it was a slower start. He missed part of training camp with the hand injury, so he had to work back up to speed, and he was coming off missing a whole year at Ohio State. So
Mhm.
you had some big downtime for him, and he's starting to get in his zone. They're starting to utilize him better, like you were saying. The screen games are still there, which they're blocking better now, which has helped out quite a bit. And they're actually having him, run the seam running routes, running
Yeah,
wheel routes. So
actually run a route.
it's great because he does have that big playability, and you can see that those numbers keep ratcheting up and ratcheting up. And, you hope that at some point this offense really finds their footing. And I think that when they do, he will be a big part of it.
All right, I
All
like
right.
it.
The next player that we have is Noah Fant. Naughty or nice?
I'm going with Naughty. Man, Noah Fant has been hyped up for years. He has been hyped up when he was on the Broncos, coming out of the draft. Um, the dude has been hyped up for absolutely nothing. He's like 26 years old, and he runs like Jason Witten does, but can't get open as easy. I'm not a huge fan of him. I would much rather have Colby Parkinson running routes or Will Disley. They're more my fancy, but Noah Fant just, in my opinion, has not been good on this Seahawks team. I don't think he's a big fit. So that's my opinion. Coach Red, what do you got?
I'm also going to go with Naughty, and it's for similar but different reasons. So the Seahawks have only picked up one fifth-year option out of a first-round player, and it was Noah Fant. And he had some good production last year. It just seems like his production is sporadic. And is that because Parkinson's getting on the field a little bit more? But this guy does have the athletic ability. In the game where Drew Lock came in, he catches that ball and goes 65 yards. So he does have the athletic talent. It's just finding ways to best utilize him. And it's a common theme with what we're saying is, getting consistent, utilizing your guys, doing these things. And it's not like the Seahawks are going into the BMAC and just saying, oh, we'll just do whatever we want today and then we'll just roll it out there. They've got plans and they aren't working out. So maybe it's time to mix it up a little bit. All right. So that's why Noah Fant is on the naughty list for me. If you're being the first fifth-year option that the Seahawks are ever picking up, I expect a little bit more production coming out of you. So
Yeah, like at least be in a top 10 tight end conversation.
he's always had the traits to do it. He just hasn't had the stats to back it up.
Exactly. I
All right,
just
the next player
yeah.
we have is Damian Lewis. Kane, naughty or nice?
I'm gonna go with nice. David Lewis has been solid for the Seahawks. Been a little bit underrated, in my opinion. He's a young guy who has had to fill in, basically be a patch job at every person who gets injured on the line. I've seen him bounce from the tackles to the guard position. I believe
Tackles?
you know, how many years has he been in the Seahawks? Like 3 or 4, right? Exactly.
He
The
never
dude
played
is
tackle.
Well, he's basically a patch job for this O line. And for being a patch job, I think he's done tremendous, honestly. He goes out there and blocks basically your nose tackles. And the dude does it with some Mardi Gras, basically. I just like Damian Lewis a lot. Coach Red, what do you got?
Naughty. Damian Lewis is not a patch job. He's been a starter from the day he walked on this team. This
Oh boy.
guy is a guy that's going into his first contract year. I expected to see a little bit more. You have him, you have Phil Haynes, Anthony Bradford, who he played with at LSU, and then you bring in Evan Brown. You are expecting bigger things from this line. Injuries have been piling up more and more for him. He's missed some games, he's missed some time, he's looked inconsistent when he's been out there this year. For me, I don't think he's been Mardi Gras. And if anything, he's been pulling up his shirt and showing his breast while he's on the sideline because he's out in the game early in the season. So no Mardi Gras
All
for
right.
me.
All
All right,
right.
let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball. King, naughty or nice, Draymond Jones.
Naughty for me on this one. Draymond Jones hasn't had the production that we signed. Like that his contract lives up to, right? He was the big name that the Seahawks went out and got besides Jaron Reed. Um, and you really expected him to elevate this pass rush. And for me, it's not working. He doesn't seem like he's getting to the quarterback very much. It's just like he's fading into the background, ahead of like Boye Mafe, uh, Leonard Williams now,
Jaron
Jaron
Reed.
Reed. you know, he's kind of fading into the background, and you're not really rushing him on the outside because you now have Frank Clark, who is also injured right now, but Boye Mafe,
Frank Clark wasn't injured. He was a healthy scratch last week.
oh, well, that's unfortunate. But I don't know. Draymond Jones just hasn't put up the numbers for me this year. Coach Red, what do you got?
He also makes the naughty list for me. He was the guy that you paid the most to in free agency. Coming in number two was Julian Love, who I think's played pretty solidly for this team. But there are games where I will say this: the run defense has been improved, and he's a big part of that. Being able to eat up blocks, he might not be getting all of the stats there, but there are times when he makes a play, I'm like, who's 55? Oh, shoot. It's Tremont Jones. I forgot he was on the team.
Yeah.
And that's not what you want. This is a guy that was consistently near the top in pressures and creating pressures from the interior for the Broncos. And you were hoping that you would see that pass rush upside with being able to lock down the run game. The run game and run defense has been markedly improved this year, thanks to him. But I want to see some more splash plays for a guy that I'm paying the type of dollars. Well, I'm not paying
I
it.
want to be. I want to see
I'm not paying it.
sacks.
I'm not. I'm not a banker. I'm not out here. I'm not an ATM machine. This isn't NIL.
I just want to see him get sacks.
I want to. I want to see him like obliterate some run plays, like split the double team, put a guy down, -1 yard. That's what I want to see. If he does that and doesn't get a sack the rest of the year and makes splash plays in the run game at the line of scrimmage, I'm totally fine with that. I'm totally fine with it because guess what? If he's doing that, he's probably doing it more than twice a game. And I want to hear his name. I want to see him make the plays.
Yeah.
All right, let's go with the hardest. Maybe not the hardest, but one of the hardest ones on here. Nadir Nice, Boye Mafe.
Oh boy, Mafe. That dude's on the nice list this year. Man, what a breakout year he's had. 7 games in a row with a sack. And thought he would get 8, but the dude is just wreaking havoc on the outside. He is swimming past tackles and going straight for the quarterback's throat. The dude is an absolute athlete, and it's just great to see him take this stride in year 2. So, Coach Red, what do you got?
Oh boy, Mafe. He's so nice that he's getting the brand new iPhone 5 Platinum or 15 Platinum, and he doesn't even have to go trade in his phone. We're just giving it to him. That's how
Yeah.
nice he's been. Uh, he's a guy that we knew had the tools. We've talked about him a lot. Really getting after the quarterback has been the spark, has been the consistent guy getting after the quarterback on this team. And he's very sound in the run game too. So he's multifaceted out there. Big body, big motor. Love to see it. This is a guy that you've seen the Seahawks when it comes to that second deal, like with Frank Clark. Um, trade him away because you don't think you can afford him. I don't think you can afford to not pay Boye Mafe when it
Yeah.
comes time for free agency because it'll be interesting to see what he does next year. But if he improves again, you need to start working on an extension early.
Yes.
Early.
I agree.
All right. The next player we have is Bobby Wagner, naughty or nice.
Uh nice again. What dude, you can see the difference in the defense, I feel, from last year to this year. Not having Bobby to having your captain back, practically. Your center fielder, the guy who's calling all the shots. You can see that he brings the veteran presence to that team, and he's a true leader. And the dude is playing at a high level still, and he's what, 34? Like, That's insane. I can only remember a few linebackers, middle linebackers, that is, that have played very, very, very high football late into their careers. And Bobby's getting there with them.
Name
So,
some.
Ray Lewis, Brian Urlacher.
Okay. That's one more than I thought you'd get. I thought you would just get Ray Lewis.
I know some things, dude.
All right, just checking. Just
Yeah,
checking.
I mean, like Dwight Freeney when he was, I know he was an outside linebacker, but
And
he, yeah,
defensive end.
he was also listed as a right outside linebacker. But
Hmm. Okay.
all right,
So is Frank Clark.
yeah, all right, Coach Red, what do you got for Bobby?
Bobby Wagner. It's nice that he's back, but lately he has worked his way onto the naughty list. And I will say this, he's on the nice list for his run defense. He's piling up tackles, but the last 2 weeks playing division opponents, they've exploited him in the pass game in the middle of the field, right at him. They've been attacking him. He's not as fast as he once was. And you see that Devin Bush is not a scratch the last couple of games. He's making plays on special teams. Him and Jordan Brooks should potentially be on the field in those obvious passing downs because you get a little bit more athleticism with Devin Bush. And they were
Yeah,
just hammering in the middle of the field on Bobby. And he
it's
looked lost at some points. Like, I don't know where to be. And the leadership has been awesome. The help in the run defense has also been attributed there. But that over the middle passing is something that's been plaguing the Seahawks for years, and it's been fairly well muted, except when we get back in those division games. Is this going to be an outline for Dak Prescott, for Brock Purdy again, and for Jalen Hurts to attack the middle of the field and attack Bobby Wagner? I don't know. They could make some schematic changes, but for the last couple of weeks, he's worked his way a little bit on the night list because he's been not doing so hot in the pass game.
it is kind of, I thought that Devin Bush would play a lot more.
Yeah,
I really thought he would
same.
prove it, 1 year prove it deal, and I thought he was going to be on the field a lot more.
Agreed. All right, next player we got Quandre Diggs. Naughty or nice?
Naughty, dude. Up until the last 2 weeks, I haven't seen Gwandre Diggs like really make an impactful play. I mean, the last 2 weeks I've seen him come flying in, making a big hit. But other than that, where's he been all year? This is a guy who would lead the team in picks like a year or two ago. And, this year he's just nowhere to be seen. I'm not liking it. The play rec just doesn't look like it used to. As you said, he's getting older too, and safeties usually seem to either excel for a very long time or have that short little burst and fall off. So I don't know what we're gonna see from Quandre for the rest of the year, but right now he's on my naughty list. Coach Red, what is he on yours?
He's on my naughty list as well. And like you said, interception splash plays has kind of been his forte. His first year after the with the trade and after the trade was clocking in at about 5 picks a year. And I think he was at that point last year. I think we're sitting at 0 or 1 right now. He is flying in to make tackles, but there have been a few more times this year than I've seen in the past where guys are bouncing off. He's not wrapping up and they're getting that extra burst of yards. So I think that Quandre is a key piece to this team. I think that he does a pretty darn good job in the free safety. He's not getting beat over the top, but he's the guy that has been that menace over the deep middle for big hits and big picks, and you haven't seen that. And we said the defense has all these pieces. They just need to start making it splash a little bit. You need those splash plays. You look at the Seahawks in this game. At the point when you have Jordan Brooks that gets the pick six, you stop the 49ers again. Then you kick a field goal. at that point in time, you are at an 11-point game. You've stopped the 49ers on multiple drives, and you think this is going to roll, and it just kind of goes back. And that's the one thing that the Seahawks kind of have. Great drive, poor drive. Great drive, poor drive. Consistency on defense, so we need to see too.
Yes.
All right, the last naughty or nice player we have is Devin Witherspoon.
That little spoon, he's on the nice list. Come on, let's be real here. He has played phenomenal this year. And yes, he has a couple PI flags against him. One that shouldn't have counted. But overall, the dude has an interception on the year, pick six, right up there. He also forces the ball loose and makes his tackles or completely destroys Rondell Moore. So he is on my nice list. Coach Red, what do you got?
I said Boye Mafe was getting the iPhone. Well, I think that Spoon's getting the PlayStation 6
Yeah.
military grade drone. These are all coming under the Christmas tree for Spoon. And he's right in there for Defensive Rookie of the Year. I think he's also making a play as well for potentially his first Pro Bowl as well. I think that he's up there with the likes of Sauce Gardner. He's not getting necessarily the league wide publicity. There's been some slander coming from our Northwest friend, Colin Cowherd, and on his show, one of those guys, Witherspoon had that one game against uh, the Giants on the big stage and hasn't done much since. I don't think they've been watching the Seahawks play because he's been all over the ball and
Mm-hmm.
he's making more plays than he's missing, which you look at some of these corners that get drafted early. Sure, for every Sauce Gardner, you have a Jeff Okuda, you have a Derek Stingley Jr., you have these guys that don't necessarily pan out. CJ Henderson, these are all guys that were drafted in the top 10. And, besides Sauce that I named, the rest of them didn't really pan out super well and play on multiple teams. And Stingley, I don't even know what he's doing down there in Houston. I don't really
Pretty
hear from
sure
him much.
I'm pretty sure he's injured.
Yeah. Surprise, surprise. He came
Because
injured out of college. So with Spoon
yeah.
doing what he's doing and being right in the thick of defensive rookie of the year, you
I
couldn't
mean
ask for more.
I mean, I hear more about him than Joey Porter Jr., than Emmanuel Forbes, than Deontay Banks. Basically, every corner that was drafted, anything negative outside of, as people, as you said, the people who don't actually watch the Seahawks. Uh, but I haven't heard a thing about Joey Porter. Or, Emmanuel Forbes has been burnt all year. Deontay Banks has been okay. I mean, but Spoon has just been on another level.
All right. That does it for our naughty or nice list. Now let's go look ahead to the game tomorrow and back-to-back Thursday nighter going up against Dallas. Very good record this year. I want to point out that all of their wins are against teams, I believe, that are below 500
They are.
at this point in time.
They
So
are.
every team they've played, well,
It's the same exact treatment that they should be giving Dallas as they do Miami, because Miami has not also beat a team over 500. So they should be getting the same treatment, but they're not because they're the Cowboys.
yeah, the one big surprise for me for the Cowboys is Tony Pollard being a little bit quiet with him getting the
Yeah.
full reins and being the explosive guy. He's he's heated up a little bit, but CD Lamb and Dak have really heated up over the last couple of weeks. For me, it's going to be interesting to see one is Reek back on the field. That's
Right.
that's going to be big. Reek, is it going to be Trey Brown? Is it going to be Spoon? Even I'd be interested to see if they just run straight up man on CD with an athlete and say, "Hey, you're going to have uh, Michael Gallup, Brandon Cooks, and Ferguson beat us because CD Lamb isn't going to be the guy. And if he is, you're going to have to make great throws because he's going to be in man coverage, pressed up all day with either Reek, if healthy and playing in this game, getting in
Mhm.
his grill, being able to run with him, having the huge wingspan, or Spoon, who's just scrappy as all get out. I think those would be the two guys that I would expect and hope that follow CD Lamb.
Yeah, yeah. It's really really a tough matchup. Brandon Cooks has kind of been picking it up over the last couple of weeks, making bigger splash plays here and there. Uh, but the one thing too is this offense really needs to click because their defense is kind of on the same level as the 49ers.
Yeah, they're hot. You're going to get
I
pressure from Micah Parsons. Deron Bland has 5 touchdowns on the year right
Yeah,
now from the defensive side.
he has more touchdowns than most people, most wideouts in the league right now.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, and that's a defense that's minus Trayvon Diggs right now, and they're still playing at an unreal level.
Well,
So
you got Dan Quinn, who's
yes,
still there, and but the one thing that happens with the Cowboys, it is a little bit of Seahawks in them. Is they'll have good drives and they'll have poor drives. This defense, even though they can create the pressures and take the ball away, I think those two are synonymous. But they're a team that will give up big plays. Diggs was a Pro Bowler last year. Guess what? He was also gave up the most yards, but he had an act of picking the ball off. They're
yep.
going to give up some of these big plays. Their linebacking core is a little bit depleted right now with the loss of Leighton Vander Esch. They had Shaq Leonard come in for a visit, but he's not signing before this game because he's in Philadelphia right now. So
Most
I,
likely leaving with a contract.
I just want to see them get the ground game going and be balanced.
Yeah,
Running concepts, having Abe Lucas back, I think can be huge to give that little extra time because that's the one big thing is you had these two rookies that were just anchored on the ends, your bookend tackles, and you haven't had that at all this year. So it'll be
right.
interesting to see when they're both on the field if they can give Gino a little bit more time against an elite pass rusher and Micah Parsons,
Yep.
and be able to let routes develop, let the play calls get going, be able to stick with the run game a little bit longer, stick with the pass game, whatever's working, just let it ride a little bit. Just let it ride.
But Shane Waldron gets weird.
Jeez. Yep. Shane Waldron, big talk. Sound like he's on the hot seat, at least on Seahawks Twitter for sure. And
Yeah.
it's, I've explained it this way to people. I don't know if it is a Shane Waldron problem or if it's a Pete Carroll problem because with Pete Carroll, even though he's a defensive coach, he sits there and I think kind of directs what he wants the offense to do. And I don't know if his coordinators are hamstrung because of it. So it'll be interesting to see because he's really fighting for his job right now because it was the dynamic offense that Sean McVay runs, the multiples hit in the middle of the field. Gino's
Mm-hmm.
best quality is outside the numbers and deep, a deep ball. He's better at going over the middle of the field than Russell Wilson was, but you need to see it progress even more and more as we go along. You need to see more points getting on the board because 13, 17 points aren't going to do it, especially with the stretch. You're going to have to start putting up points and you need to get on the same page early and often and
Mm-hmm.
really make a case to say why you deserve to be a playoff team.
Yeah, I agree. They really got to get a good come together moment and really talk about things.
Yeah, come together moment like with us on social media. You can find me, your boy Coach Red, on Twitter at the real Coach Red, on Instagram at the real underscore Coach Red, TikTok at the real Coach Red. And while you're at it, hop on over to YouTube, search Kicking It with Coach Red. Like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications, leave a comment or two. Kane, where you at?
You can find me on Twitter at Kane2406, on YouTube at Kane06, TikTok and Kick K0624. Also follow the show's socials over on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Red Pod. Follow us, follow us, follow us. Do it, freaking do it.
And as always, stay fresh.
Stay fresh, peeps.
Peace.